Hi everyone, welcome back to Rachel's Enchanting Cakes. Now today I am continuing with the sugar sheet cake trend, but this time we are going to be creating a damask styled pattern to go around your even sized cakes. This one is a little bit more tricky. It was just an idea I had. Again, I wasn't sure if it would work until I tried it, but it did. Everything you need to know in a simple step-by-step format. There are now 142 completely free tutorials on the channel with more new content added on a regular basis. So, shall we make a start? I think we should, guys. This is one you do not want to miss. Bake 2 6-inch round cakes and level them both so they are exactly 4.5 centimeters deep. Using a piping bag, add 1 centimeters worth deep of filling to the cake. This is so the cake ends up being exactly 10 centimeters tall. Now add the other half of the cake and cover the whole of the cake with a thin layer of buttercream. To cover a cake this deep, roll out about 650 grams of fondant. Simply drape this over the cake. Use your hands to negotiate the pleats. Cut off any excess and then smooth out the sides with some cake smoothers. In order to make the sugar sheet, you want 180 grams of caster sugar and some black food colouring. I make one batch at a time. Simply add this caster sugar to the bag, place in the black food colouring, and then you just mix it together once you have sealed the bag. Now, to colour a darker colour, it does take quite a bit longer to actually colour the sugar, but just bear with it. You might need to add quite a bit extra, and just until you get the perfect black colour. Place your coloured sugar back into a bowl, and now we're going to be adding liquid glucose. Add 2 tablespoons to every 180 grams of caster sugar that you actually colour. Start by using a spoon just to give it a little stir, and then get your hands in there and mix it all until it's incorporated really, really well. The first thing we need to do is cover the cake drum that the cake's going to be going on. So taking that batch of the sugar sheet recipe that we've just made, simply place this in between 2 pieces of baking parchment and gently roll it out with a rolling pin until it's large enough to go on your cake board or drum. Now, taking your cake board or drum, add some liquid glucose and flip it upside down so it's placed directly onto your sugar sheet. I then sandwiched this in between another piece of baking parchment, flipped it over and just cut off any excess. Place this in the oven for 10 minutes at 50 degrees centigrade once you have cut off the excess sugar sheet. I now take my refrigerated cake and place this directly onto the decorated cake drum ready for decorating. If you leave this in the fridge, you will be able to handle it without damaging any of the fondant around the sides. Here I have made up another batch of the sugar sheet recipe and place a very small amount on a piece of baking parchment. Now you'll notice that this is roughly the same size as the onlay sheet that I am using. We need to be very, very careful with this because we're going to be rolling it out extremely thin. So if you just leave your remaining sugar sheet recipe in a Ziploc bag, it won't actually set because the air cannot get to it. Just make sure you take the air out of the bag. You're not going to need it all, so you could use it for other projects. Simply place this on the baking sheet and, as mentioned, take your time rolling this out so it's very, very thin. Now it's time to use the Damask onlay sheet. You will find a link to this product in the description below this video. So these are perfect for even-sized cakes. If you've seen me use the Simpress moulds, they work in a similar way. I place this directly on the sugar sheet and then flip it upside down. You then want to take a rolling pin, leave the baking paper on there, and simply roll over the top, but make sure you are extremely gentle. And you will see that beautiful pattern start to come through. If you accidentally move any of the sugar sheet out of the way, just place it back into the pattern, so do keep an eye on it. Then using a Dresden tool, just remove the excess. This then wants to go into the oven for 10 minutes at 50 degrees centigrade. I have taken this directly out of the oven and whilst still warm added a small amount of edible glue to each piece of sugar sheet that's on there. You then want to use your hands and place it on the cake until the actual silicone mould starts to come away gently. I did find though the sugar likes to absorb the edible glue. If you don't add enough glue, it will be difficult to stick onto the cake. If you accidentally add too much, it can become a bit of a gloopy mess, hence needing a little bit of practice. But as you can see from this footage, I did manage to do it and it really wasn't that difficult. It's just about getting your timings right and not using too much edible glue. I will speed up this process so that you can see these sheets being added to the cake. For a 6-inch cake in total, you will need 3 of these and they will simply slot next to each other so you end up with a flawless finish. And this is what I ended up with. Now, as you could see from the footage, I did struggle in places, and granted, I do personally think this could have had a neater finish. However, this was my first time. It was just an idea. So the more I do this, the more I get used to the times, the more I get used to the amount of glue to use and how fast I apply it to the cake. All in all, practice just makes perfect. Happy baking, everyone. I hope I have helped you again today. Thank you all for your amazing support, and I will be back soon with more new, completely free content. Happy baking, guys.